So I'm going to talk to you about los números, and I'm just going to talk to you about numbers from 0 hasta 199. Okay, so primero tenemos 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, 10. Okay? You are going to have to memorize from 0 to 15. You have to memorize from 0 hasta 15. So let's keep going. We just did 10, 10, 11, 11, 12, 12, 13, 13, 14, 14, 15. And 15 looks a little funny, so I'm just going to put right, because if you'll remember, you can't get the K. The C usually is used to make the K sound, but C's next to E's and I's sound like S. For example, that's why you have the K sound here, cuatro, but you have the S sound here, cinco. And so in order to get the EA sound, or the I and the E next to in order to get that key K sound, instead of using a C, they substitute a QU. So you don't want to think of QU as que, you want to think of it as K. So it's E, because the I is pronounced as an E, so it's quince. And remember, the C next to an E sounds like an S, and then the E sounds like an A, and that's why it's pronounced quince. Okay, once we get past quince, then we actually start a pattern, okay? So 16 is actually, you could go ahead and think of it as 10 and 6, okay? And 10, if you look back over here, 10 is 10. So that's what you would write out, 10. And then you would want and is Y, E. And then 6, if you look over here, is 6. So you would write it out as this, 16. You would do the same thing for 17. It would be 10 and 7, which if you look over here again, 10 is 10, so I would write 10. And is Y, 10, and then 7 is 7. Okay? Now, however, you'll notice in my chart that I do not have the numbers written this way. This is an older way of writing them. For the teens, you can actually mush your two words together to make one word. And so what you'd be mushing together is the Z and the Y. So when you mush them together, you're going to change your Z to a C and your Y to an I. Okay? So then what I can actually write out for 16, which is more preferred, is change my Z to a C, my Y to an I, and then write it all together. So I can write 16 as 16, or I can write it all together as 16. So 17 can be written as 17, or a more preferred way to do it is to write it all together. So I start out with 10. I would change my Z to a C, my Y to an I, and then I write 7. 17. You will notice that there's an accent mark over the 6. There are 3 numbers in your first set of numbers that you learn, 1 through 15. There's 3 of them that are one-syllable words. You have dos, tres, and seis. These are all one syllable, okay? If you're making a compound number, when you're taking 2 numbers and mushing them together to make one word, if the second number that you're mushing together is a one-syllable word, when you write the mush together form, you're going to need to add in an accent mark. And so the only ones that get accented in the teens up to the 20s, the only one that's going to get accented is 16. Maybe I should do it blue. And we can put a little star by 16. Okay, so then after we've done that, you should be able to, even though we just did 16 and 17, you should know how to form 18 and 19. 18, 19. After that, we go into our 20s. 20 is 20, okay? The 20s repeat a pattern as well, just like in English, after you learn 20, then you should be able to do 21, 22, 23, etc. Because you're just adding old numbers, the 1 through 9 numbers, to your new tens place number. Okay, so you're going to do the same thing in Spanish. 22, just like you did with your teens, is actually 20 and 2. Okay, so if you look back at your chart over here, 20 is 20, so I would write out 20, and we know is y, and 2 is dos. Okay, whoops, dos. Okay, however, if you look over here again, that is not what I have written. Just like your teens, your 20s can get mushed together. And when you do that, let's go ahead and write out 26 so I can write below what the change would be. 26 would be 20 and 6, which would be 20 if we look over here is 20, E is and 6 if you look over here is 6. Okay, so when I mush my 20s together, what I'm going to do is you're going to drop your E and you're going to change your Y to an I. So here's my E, and then I'm going to change my Y to an I, and I'm going to put a little X over my E because I'm going to get rid of it. Okay, so if I wanted to make 22 a compound number, if I wanted to do the mush together form, I'm going to do 20. Here's the E, I get rid of the E, I'm going to change my Y to an I, and then I would add 2. However, if you'll remember what I was just telling you a few minutes ago, dos is a one-syllable word, so in order to make 22, I'm going to have to add an accent mark over my S. So I could say 22 as 22 or 22, and the ones in red are the preferred way, the ones that are in the chart. So you can make them as 3 separate words, but most people tend to do the mush together form. So if we're doing 26, here's 20, I drop the E, change my Y to an I, and then 6 again is one syllable, so I'm going to add an accent over my E. So I could do 26 is 26 or 26. Okay, and so after having done just 22 and 26, you should be able to do all of your 20s. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. And within your 20s, there are 3 that get that accent mark if you make them a compound number, which are 22, 23, and 26. Okay, now however, when you get to your 30s and on up, you're just going to write them as 3 separate numbers. So 30 is 30, 31 is 30 and 1, which is 31, 32 is 30 and 2, 32, 33 is 30 and 3, 33, 34 is 30 and 4, 34, 35 is 30 and 5, 35, 36 is 30 and 6, 36, 37 is 30 and 7, 37, 38 is 30 and 8, 38, 39 is 39, 30 and 9. And then the same thing happens as you go on up. You basically just have to memorize your tens. You need to memorize 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and then 90, and you should be able to form the entire set of numbers within that tens place. So there's 40, which is 40, and then it's 40 and 1 for 41, 41, 40 and 2, 42, 40 and 3, 43, and so on. 50 is 50, and so then 51 is 50 and 1, 51, 50 and 2, 52, 50 and 3, 53, 60, 60, 61, 61, 62, 62, 63, which would be 60 and 3, 63, and so on. 70 is 70, so 71 would be 70 and 1, 71, 70 and 2, 72, 70 and 3, 73, and so on. 80 is 80, so 81 would be 80 and 1, 81, 80 and 2, 82, 80 and 3, 83, so on. 90 would be 90, 90 and 1, 91, 90 and 2, 92, 90 and 3, 93, and then 100 is 100. However, once you go over 100, you don't use 100 anymore, you use ciento. So if I have 101, which I've written out there, I have 101, 115, 125, all of these, for all of these, I am going to use ciento instead of 100. I only use 100 when it's 100. When it's above 100, I say 101, okay? 115. And then for 125, 125, okay? Notice also that I am not putting an and. Let me go back. That I am not putting an and between my hundreds and ones or my hundreds and tens. You only put ands between tens and ones, not between hundreds and ones and not between hundreds and tens.